Hello my friends, welcome back to another video on some of the most common types of mistakes that we make in chess. In this video we want to look at a mistake that I call take as a mistake. And in this case, when we capture one of our opponent's pieces, if it helps our opponent's position when they recapture, then we've made a mistake. Let's dive right into our first example so we can see what that looks like. In this example, we have black's turn to move, and right now white controls this open D file. Pause the video, figure out what you would do with black. Okay, if you said bring either rook to the D8 square, then you'd be right, because black needs to contest this file. Otherwise, if they do something silly like rook to E8, then white will come in and take control of black's 7th rank, and that would be ugly. That would be ugly for black. So clearly they need to play either rook f to d8 or rook a to d8. Then if white falls victim to this mistake that we make by capturing, say for example rook captures rook, then black must recapture. So you're basically forcing your opponent to play a good move. It's never a good thing. And after rook captures, now white played an aggressive looking move that captured, but now it's black who owns the D file. So now white has really nothing better to do than, say for example, king f1, and black could even play rook d2 if they wanted, but they can also just continue to bring their king closer towards the center like they should in almost all endgames. King activity is extremely important, and if anyone's better here, it will be black by just a little bit. So if we rewind, then in this position, white should do something else besides capturing their rook after rook over to d8. White should probably just immediately bring their king. Say for example king to f1 and keep on bringing their king. That's how important king activity is, but that'll be for another video. Just in this example, we just want to make sure that we are not taking and mistaking here. We don't want to give our opponent this open file. Okay, so let's take a look at our next example. In this case, we have a Ruy Lopez or a Spanish game. So white has just played their bishop up to b5, challenging this knight. Black then contests this bishop and asks them what they're doing there. In this case, white will capture this knight, and then black will recapture with their d-pawn. So in this case, white has spent 2 tempi, or 2 moves, to capture this knight. Black has only spent 1 move moving their knight, and now both black's bishops can get out, and white is still a little bit behind here. Although this is a perfectly playable opening, it's called the exchange variation of the Ruy Lopez, it seems like black is doing more than okay here. So if white tries to nab this pawn because of the remove the defender trick, where this knight was previously guarding the e5 pawn that white had captured, now if I let you pause the video, what should black do here to regain that material? Okay, if you found queen to d4 or queen to g5, then you'd be right, because it would be forking either on d4, the knight on e5 and the pawn on e4, or queen to g5 attacking the knight and the pawn on g2. So then when white saves their knight, then black can help themselves to the pawn on g2, and although material is back to equal, black is doing more than okay here. So this would be an example of take is not necessarily a big mistake here, but it doesn't seem like white is really getting much out of it. That's why most strong players, you would see them play some other move rather than the exchange variation, which is most in fashion. Bishop to a4 is much more common in strong players' games because they're keeping the material on the board, maintaining the tension, instead of taking and mistaking. Okay, so let's go to our last example. In this case we have Philidor's defense. So black has just played their pawn up to d6 to stop white from capturing on e5 with their knight. Okay, white will play their bishop up to c4, and black will respond with bishop to g4. What do you guys think about this move? Take a second and pause the video if you need to. Okay, so it turns out that bishop to g4 is a big mistake. When we play our bishop to g4, we're violating one rule of bringing our bishops out before our knights. Usually we know where our knights want to be. Our knights want to be in the center on these squares. Our bishops, we don't know exactly where they want to be yet because they might be doing a good job on g4, but they might be doing a good job on other squares. So we don't exactly know where our bishops want to be yet. And in this case, white has some good moves to follow up here. So white could play their pawn up to d4, and then black will make yet another mistake. Take is a mistake here. If black plays bishop captures on f3, what would you do with the white pieces? Pause the video and find the best move. Okay, so of course we don't want to play pawn captures on f3 because that will hurt white's pawn structure and not develop a piece. We should of course play queen captures on f3, and this carries a threat. Say for example, black just plays their knight to c6. What would you do as white? Okay, so if you found queen to f7, then you would have the scholar's mate pattern under your belt. Good for you. We would pick a different move for black. So let's say, for example, knight will go to f6. And if I let you pause the video yet again, what would you play with the white pieces? Okay, so you could play this move immediately or after pawn captures pawn, pawn captures pawn. Then we could play queen to b3, and this would create a fork because we're attacking b7, and we've also created a battery against f7. And there's no way that black can defend against both threats. They should probably guard against this threat because it's the more severe one. So after queen to e7, then white can capture on b7, and they will have a good advantage here. So that is our final example on take is a mistake here. So black shouldn't have captured this knight on f3, helping white's queen get out to this square. If you want to know more about this last example, I highly recommend that you check out Paul Morphy's Opera House game. It is a very famous chess game and a very instructional one as well. So there we have it. That's our take is a mistake in our chess games. Try and avoid that. Try and keep the tension. Only make a capture if you are significantly ahead in material, or if making this capture will actually help your position rather than help your opponent. Alright guys, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. See ya.